If you're a Canadian senior receiving CPP or old age security, and you're not yet a citizen, you need to hear this right now. Ottawa just confirmed new federal benefit rules that could directly impact non-citizens starting March 1st, and thousands of permanent residents across Canada are scrambling to figure out if their monthly payments are at risk. This isn't speculation. This is coming straight from federal policy updates. And if you don't understand what's changing before the deadline, you could be caught completely off guard. So if you or someone you know is collecting government benefits but hasn't completed their citizenship process, do not click away. What I'm about to explain could affect your financial security for the rest of the year. All right, let's get into exactly what Ottawa announced and why March 1st matters so much. According to recent updates from the Department of Finance Canada and Service Canada, new eligibility verification measures are being rolled out across multiple federal benefit programs. These changes are part of a broader effort to tighten residency and status requirements tied to government payments. Now, this doesn't mean benefits are being canceled overnight, but it does mean that non-citizens who are currently receiving CPP, Old Age Security, or the Guaranteed Income Supplement may now face additional documentation requirements and stricter proof of status checks starting March 1st. Here's where it gets serious. The Canada Revenue Agency and Service Canada are now cross-referencing immigration status with benefit payments more aggressively than ever before. If you're a permanent resident, a sponsored family member, or someone on a temporary status who's been receiving federal benefits, you could be flagged for a review. And this is the part many seniors are misunderstanding. It's not about taking away benefits from people who legitimately qualify. It's about making sure that everyone receiving federal money actually meets the updated residency and status criteria that Ottawa is now enforcing much more strictly. So let's break down which programs are actually affected here. First, the Canada Pension Plan. CPP is generally safe for most people because it's based on your work contributions. If you worked in Canada and paid into CPP, you've earned that pension regardless of your citizenship status. However, and this is critical, if you're receiving CPP while living outside Canada and you're not a Canadian citizen, new rules may require you to provide updated proof of your legal status and residency history. Service Canada has confirmed that they're now conducting more frequent reviews of CPP recipients who are non-citizens and living abroad. Next, old age security. This is where things get more complicated. OAS has always had residency requirements. To qualify, you need to have lived in Canada for at least 10 years after turning 18. But under the new rules, non-citizens who are receiving OAS will now need to prove not just their residency history, but also their current immigration status. If you're a permanent resident who's been in Canada for decades but never became a citizen, you're not losing your OAS automatically. But you may be asked to submit updated documents to confirm your status, and if you don't respond by the deadline Service Canada sets, your payments could be paused or suspended. Then there's the Guaranteed Income Supplement. GIS is income tested and it's designed for low-income seniors. The new federal rules are being applied here as well. If you're a permanent resident receiving GIS, you'll likely be required to verify your status and prove that you meet all residency requirements. According to updates on Canada.ca, seniors who don't file their taxes or who don't respond to status verification requests could see their GIS payments interrupted. And because GIS is such a crucial lifeline for seniors living on very little income, losing even 1 month of payments can be devastating. Now let's talk about who exactly qualifies as a non-citizen under these new rules. This is where a lot of confusion is happening. When Ottawa says non-citizen, they're talking about anyone who is not a Canadian citizen. That includes permanent residents, even if you've lived here for 30 or 40 years. It includes people on temporary resident status, although most temporary residents wouldn't qualify for CPP or OAS in the first place. It also includes sponsored individuals. If you were sponsored by a family member to come to Canada and you're receiving federal benefits, you fall into this category. The key thing to understand is that permanent residency is not the same as citizenship. And under these new rules, that distinction matters more than it used to. But the detail buried in the federal update is what really matters. According to statements from Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, These changes are being tied to broader efforts to combat benefit fraud and ensure that only eligible individuals are receiving taxpayer-funded payments. The government has said that the vast majority of legitimate beneficiaries will not see any disruption, but they're also making it clear that non-citizens need to be proactive about confirming their status and responding to any requests from Service Canada or the CRA. So why is March 1st the date everyone's talking about? Here's what we know. March 1st is when the new verification protocols officially take effect. Starting that day, Service Canada will begin sending out status verification letters to non-citizens who are currently receiving CPP, OAS, or GIS. If you get one of these letters, you'll have a limited window, usually 30 to 60 days, to respond with the required documents. If you don't respond, your benefits could be suspended. Now, some seniors have already started receiving these letters in late February, which means the process is already underway. But March 1st is the official rollout date, and that's when the bulk of these letters will start hitting mailboxes across the country. Stay with me, because the March 1st clarification changes everything. Ottawa has emphasized that this is not a blanket cut to benefits. It's a verification process. But here's the catch. If you've moved recently, if your mailing address isn't up to date with Service Canada, or if you're living outside Canada and not receiving mail regularly, you might miss the letter entirely. And if you miss the letter, you miss the deadline. And if you miss the deadline, your payments stop. It's that simple. So even if you think you're not affected, you need to make absolutely sure your contact information is current with Service Canada. Now let's talk about who will not be affected, because this is very important for reducing panic. If you are a Canadian citizen, these new rules do not apply to you. Your CPP, OAS, and GIS are not under review because of your citizenship status. If you're a permanent resident who is already in the process of becoming a citizen, you're still subject to these checks until your citizenship is finalized. But as long as you respond to any verification requests and provide the documents they ask for, your benefits should continue without interruption. If you're a permanent resident who has no plans to become a citizen, but you meet all the residency requirements and you've been filing your taxes properly, you're also likely fine. You just need to respond promptly to any letters you receive. And here's another group that won't be affected. If you're a newcomer to Canada who hasn't yet qualified for CPP or OAS, these rules don't change your eligibility timeline. You still need to meet the same work and residency requirements you always did. The new rules are focused on people who are already receiving benefits, not on people who are waiting to qualify. So how does all of this connect to broader federal policy and budget updates? Well, this is part of a larger trend we've been seeing from Ottawa over the past year. The federal government is under pressure to reduce spending and crack down on improper payments across all benefit programs. In the 2025 federal budget documents, there were specific mentions of enhancing program integrity and improving data sharing between departments. What that means in plain English is that the CRA, Service Canada, and Immigration Canada are now talking to each other much more than they used to. They're cross-referencing tax filings with immigration records, benefit payments with residency status, and they're flagging discrepancies much faster. There's one category most people don't realize is included. Seniors who are living outside Canada and receiving CPP or OAS are being scrutinized more carefully than ever. If you're a permanent resident who moved back to your home country, but you're still collecting Canadian benefits, you need to be especially careful. The new rules give Service Canada more authority to verify whether you're meeting the residency requirements for your benefits, and if you're not, they can suspend or reduce your payments. CBC News reported earlier this month that hundreds of benefit cases have already been flagged for review, and that number is expected to grow significantly after March 1st. So, what should you be checking right now? First, your immigration status. If you're a permanent resident, make sure your PR card is current and that you have copies of all your immigration documents. If your PR card has expired, you need to renew it immediately, because Service Canada may ask you to provide proof of valid status. Second, your residency history. If you've spent time outside Canada, make sure you have records of when you left and when you returned. OAS and GIS both have residency requirements. and you may need to prove that you've met them. Third, your tax filings. This is huge. If you haven't filed your taxes, even if you don't owe anything, you need to file them right away. The CRA uses your tax returns to determine your eligibility for GIS and other income-tested benefits. If you're not filing, you're not only risking your GIS, you're also making yourself a target for these new status reviews. And fourth, your contact information. Log into your My Service Canada account online and make absolutely sure that your mailing address, email, and phone number are all up to date. If Service Canada can't reach you, they can't verify your status, and your benefits will be suspended. Now, what could happen next if these changes are expanded? That's the question a lot of seniors are asking, and honestly, we don't have a clear answer yet. What we do know is that the federal government has been making it clear that they're serious about program integrity. The Globe and Mail recently published an analysis suggesting that these new verification measures could be extended to other federal programs, including disability benefits, child benefits, and even employment insurance. If that happens, we could be looking at a much broader crackdown on benefit eligibility across the board. Some policy experts are also warning that the March 1st rollout is just phase 1. There's talk in Ottawa about implementing even stricter residency requirements for OAS and GIS in the future, possibly requiring seniors to prove that they're spending a minimum number of days per year physically in Canada. That hasn't been confirmed yet, but the fact that it's being discussed at the federal level is something every senior needs to be aware of, especially if you're planning to travel or spend extended time outside Canada. But here's the most important thing I need to say, and I need you to really hear this. There is a lot of misinformation spreading right now. Some seniors are panicking and thinking their benefits are being cut off completely. That is not what's happening. What's happening is a verification process. If you are legitimately eligible for your benefits, if you're a permanent resident who meets the residency requirements, if you've been filing your taxes, and you have your documents in order, you are going to be fine. The government is not trying to take away benefits from people who deserve them. They're trying to make sure that only people who deserve them are getting them. That said, you cannot afford to ignore this. If you receive a letter from Service Canada, you need to respond. If you're not sure whether your status is up to date, you need to check. If you haven't filed your taxes, you need to file them. This is not the time to assume everything is fine and hope for the best. March 1st is here, and the letters are going out, and if you don't take action, you could find yourself in a very difficult situation. So here's what I want you to do right now. If this video helped you understand what's happening, hit the like button so more Canadian seniors can see this information. Subscribe to this channel because I'm going to keep covering every update on CPP, OAS, GIS, and federal benefit changes as they happen. I'm here to give you verified, accurate information that you can trust, and I'm going to keep doing that for as long as these policies keep changing. And if you're a permanent resident, or if you're sponsoring a family member who's receiving benefits, I need you to leave a comment below and let me know your situation. Are you worried about these changes? Have you already received a verification letter? What questions do you have? The more we share information with each other, the better prepared we all are. Finally, please share this video with other seniors in your community. Share it in your family group chat. Share it with your friends at the community center. Share it with anyone you know who might be affected by these rules. The March 1st deadline is not something people can afford to miss. And the more people who understand what's happening, the fewer seniors will have their benefits interrupted because they didn't know they needed to respond. This is a serious situation, but it's also a manageable one if you stay informed and take action. Don't panic, but don't ignore it either. Check your status, check your mail, check your documents, and respond to anything Service Canada sends you. That's how you protect your financial security. That's how you make sure you keep receiving the benefits you've earned. And that's how we all get through this together. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, stay prepared, and I'll see you in the next update.